All right, I want to welcome everybody to our 2022 Augusta Community Garden Planning Meeting. And I wanted to introduce some of the folks that are on the board for the community garden. Of course, Monica Williams is board president, and Eric Burke is present with us. Alan Milbrat is our host and IT guy. Bryce Westfall with the Augusta Middle School. And Mark Wagner, who's not on here tonight. He's recovering from COVID. Of course, myself, Patrick Laham. Jerry Long is with us tonight, and Relina Tushaw. And our, what's that? Are you there, Monica? Yeah, you are. Good.
Yeah.
Our Butler County Extension agent, or our horticulture agent, Calla Edwards. Calla is an ex officio member of the board. She's helping us in an advisory capacity, just like Larry Krause was when he was on our board. So without any further ado, I'll turn the meeting over to Monica for just a brief history of the community garden. Are you ready, Monica?
In fall of 2012, in conjunction with the Butler County Health Department, a community-wide health assessment was performed in the areas of nutrition, physical activity, and tobacco use. And then in 2013, 2014, we put a focus on strategies to provide impact in all areas of health focus for tobacco, physical activity, and nutrition, along with an additional focus on environmental sustainability and climate change as a critical component to all aspects of health. In 2013, no smoking signs were provided to the park board for public park areas. And then in 2014, also a consensus among a small group of us began to work on establishing a communal garden because we felt like that would benefit in all areas of health focus. So then in 2014, 2015, we had to go a couple of times. We went, the small group of us, we met with the City Council and Department of Parks Board to get support for dedicated land space on city property to establish the garden. And in fall 2015, the City of Augusta did dedicate our current space at Ohio and 14th Street to use for the community garden, which we began the communal garden and established the community garden as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Just to kind of explain that, it is a two-part garden. There's a communal aspect, which is big beds that sit on the south side of the drive as you enter off of Ohio, that are specifically used and taken care of by community members and the board to give to local charity or nonprofit or those in need. That's all. On the north side of the drive, those are community. That's part of the community garden. So that's where we have the beds that community members can adopt for use themselves each season. And obviously we want them to be able to have an opportunity to grow and learn and raise their own vegetables and things like that. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of create that social belonging and bring the community together for a common goal to help one another. Not to mention the fact that groceries are getting more and more expensive. So here's a good time to start gardening. So in 2016, we began that process. And then in 2017, that's when the Ohio Street project began, which really put a damper on expansion because we didn't have water access to the community beds. We had minimal access of water to the communal bed. And we were still just kind of trying to figure out how to get things arranged and get things started. So that was, we still had an increase of production for the communal garden that year. So we've continuously had more production and more vegetables, and, continue to donate all that we can. Um, but in 2019, then we also got a lot of master gardeners volunteer their time to help and support the garden by coming out and, weeding, taking care of things, harvesting, planting, whatever they could do. I mean, we were really blessed and continue to be. And then in 2019, 2020, I believe, a collaborative partnership was created between the garden and the middle school with one of the teachers, to grow the garden and provide the education involvement we kind of set forth to achieve from the beginning. So this was great. This is great. 2020, the garden was closed to COVID, but one of the local master gardeners did use the existing beds to grow produce and graciously made donations to the community with everything that she grew. In 2021, that was our first year to have beds available for local community members. And we were blessed to have a small group of individuals become involved and helped, us grow and support us and everything else. But what we did find also, and just to make a note, was a few individuals had planned on participating in the garden, but then chose not to because there were some things written in the contract and rules that they didn't necessarily agree with or like. We just want to make very, very clear to everybody that we are just a very small group of volunteers. We are just, all that happened was the garden contract and rules that were established were based off of best practices and examples that were provided by other successful community gardens across the nation. So we were trying to cover all the bases so that there was no question about what was allowed, accepted, those kinds of things. But that does not mean that everything is written in stone. I mean, we can make changes accordingly to meet the needs of the community. We want people to get involved. We want questions. We want opinions. We want to make sure that the needs are met for everybody, because without it, we can't identify what the community wants so that can be enjoyed by all. Trying to get people involved and trying to get them, started in all of this. I think that once we can get that involvement, that it will continue to grow. But right now we're just still kind of trying to meddle through some of the logistics of all this. And, we're all just kind of trying to figure it out as we go. We're learning and growing at the same time. So we get better each year. And I think that that's all that we can really expect. And,
Thank
that's
you,
really,
Monica.
that's really all I have. I don't.
Okay, did anyone have a comment or a question for Monica? If not, we'll move on to the year in review, and Alan will give us a report for last year's harvest.
This just shows how many pounds of produce we grew. So there were 307.5 pounds of produce that we donated to different places, and I'll go where we donated those here in a second. So just to make this pretty quick. So they were donated to the Carrying Center, which is here, and to the Senior Center we've donated vegetables to. So we also built 8 new beds, and we definitely want to thank all the volunteers, and the Butler Master Gardeners were certainly a big part of that. So we want to really thank them for that. And it was the first year that we started to rent beds out, so that was good. Also, with Bryce joining us, the Augusta Middle School had some beds in the garden, so that was really good. But these are some pictures of early planting, and some in the cornfield here. And then, there was, we got donations of peppers and tomatoes from the Garden Gate Club, and tomatoes and sweet corn from K-State Extension. We got straw from one of the master gardeners, and there was $100 donation for straw, if I got that right. If I don't, somebody correct me. And then High Caliber came in and helped us move some dirt around and fill some beds, which was greatly appreciated. So.
Thank you, Alan. Does anyone have a question or a comment on Alan's report? Raise your hand in the chat window if you do.
I see a thumbs up. That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. we'll move on to the middle school report with Bryce Westfall.
Perfect. Yeah. So for those who are not aware of what's going on, we're trying to have a collaboration between the middle school and the community gardens and try to build upon that relationship between the two entities. But we're also trying to plan a collaboration with some of the master gardeners to possibly get them to come to the middle school and lead some lessons that relate to our gardens there, as well as things such as sustainability gardening and a few other concepts and lessons that I'm currently working on for the master gardeners. But to kind of give an update on that, I did receive approval from my boss. So Mr. Reuter, Toby Reuter, did say that is a great idea. He loves that collaboration idea. And so we are a full go to have master gardeners possibly come up on Earth Day to teach different lessons that I plan on preparing for them, and then kind of letting their expertise take way with that lesson. And so I think it is going to be a great opportunity as I start to hash out some more of the specific details. But looking forward to that collaboration and students getting more of a hands-on experience, because we do have plans that hopefully as the master gardeners are there, we can actually have them show the students and have students help plant the gardens for that spring/summer at the middle school. So it's looking like a good thing, a good deal that we can get going. And like I said, we've got full approval to start hashing out the date, or excuse me, not the date, but the times and kind of the specifics of those lessons. And so my idea was that if we had a handful of master gardeners that were available to come up on Earth Day, they would teach a 10 to 15 minute lesson over a certain topic, and we would rotate in groups to each of the gardeners so that we can split up the students and have more smaller groups. That way it's a little more hands-on and personal for them. But that's kind of where I'm at with the update.
Excellent. Bryce, did you have some produce last year that you donated, or anything out of the beds at the middle school?
We did donate quite a few radishes and carrots to the senior center here in Augusta. I unfortunately forgot to write down the exact numbers, so I don't have really a poundage for how much was donated, but I plan on keeping a better tally of what we produce and how much we donate this year from the middle school garden.
And didn't you have some produce that you donated to the I guess they call it a blessing box there on the north side of the garden?
We did plant some watermelons late in the season, and I ended up going and finding a bunch of them hidden within the beds that I picked, and I just put them right next to that donation box in hopes that someone would see it and come get that fresh produce.
Okay. There is I guess they call it a blessing box. It's on the north side of the garden on the city easement. It's not in the garden itself.
Correct.
And that blessing box has been vandalized and run over, and you name it. It's had a hard time, but whoever's maintaining that, it's still there. So we're thankful for that. Maybe we can leave them some more goodies this year. Okay. Anyone have anything for Bryce? If not, moving on to Adopt a Garden. Eric and or Monica, one of you want to address that topic?
We just have beds. Of course, we discussed whether or not we were going to require a deposit, or what do we decide on that?
Well, I think at this point, because we don't really have a huge pool of people wanting to garden that we're just going to do an adopt a garden just to try and get people to come in and start and see what it's all about and see what they like it. And then if we, when, I don't want to say if, when we get to the point to where we have more people wanting to get into the garden than we have beds for, then we will have to start considering, you know, reserving in advance deposits, those kinds of things. Originally, the deposits were all set up just because we wanted to make sure that people were going to take serious coming into the garden and using it if they were going to do that or sign up to do that. And also just to kind of provide incentive to clean up at the end of the year instead of coming in gardening and then just leaving a mess. Not to say that anybody would do that, but it happens. And then it was going to be given back at the end of the season if everything was okay. So we've decided, since we didn't have a huge involvement last year, that this year, since we have so many, I don't want to say so many, but we have the beds that we have available, we're just going to see if we can do an adopt a bed and see how that goes over.
There are some questions from the audience
Okay.
participants wanting to know what size the beds are and how they sign up.
Well, you probably know better what the size of the beds are than I do. I was trying to think about that as we got to this part in the planning. I know that those timbers that we use are six by 6. And are they 2? Is that right, Willina, or no? Or Patrick or anybody? You guys have been working in the beds.
Eric and Alan probably know as well as much as anybody.
I'm trying to look that up right now, so I'll have it in a minute.
We feel like we should have those.
Aren't
they two length and 1 wide?
Right.
Yes, so I believe they're 12 feet by 6 feet.
Yeah, 6 by 12. That's what I thought. But
that sounds right.
And they're two rails or ties high too. So
yes. So
yeah,
whatever
they're basically 6 by 12. That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then how do they sign up?
They can either send an email to augustacommunitygarden@gmail.com. They can message through the Facebook page. You know, I know that people have contacted you before because they know you. I mean,
should we create a sign up?
We do have one that we can start. We had last year. Actually, let me see
digital?
if I'm sorry.
Digitally?
Yes, we did create one last year. I should have found all this stuff in the drive, and we do, and somewhere have a layout of the beds. I'm going to try and upload something real quick that shows like where the beds are and those kinds of things. That way people can kind of, you know, if they have a certain space that they want or whatever the case may be.
I'm going to look for it on the drive here.
Okay.
So
I wanted to comment.
We're a small group of volunteers, so we're not always all that organized either.
Wanted to comment that the middle school has reserved some of those beds for their purposes. So I'm not sure how many beds there are to rent. I believe there was 8, wasn't there?
Yeah, there were 9 total, but I think that only.
Hey, Monica, was the sign up a Google form or Excel spreadsheet, or what kind of sign up was it? Do you know?
It was, we had a layout of the garden, and then as people got in touch with us to sign up, we just kind of, they went through and we told them what beds we had, and then they just kind of went through. So there's 9 beds, but I believe that only 7 were filled. There were the 6 there were the 3 along the front, the 6 along the next row, and then there was just 1 on that C row.
And Bryce, which ones do you have?
He has the very front 3 beds. Did you find it, Alan?
Yeah.
And we may be able just to cut that down to 1 or 2 until we get more participation from students in the summertime. So you may be able to rent out number 3 in row A or number 1, doesn't really matter.
And there should be a, hold on, I'll look for the spreadsheet too.
It was more of a spreadsheet that we just filled out after people said that they wanted one.
Questions or comments for Eric and Monica regarding the adoption of garden beds?
Just a comment, I do like the adopt instead of rent.
Yep. I think the board said that's what they were gonna do, is adopt a garden. All right, moving on with the proposed planning dates. Now, the planning dates were discussed by the board, and they're for the demo beds. We have 4 demo beds. There are 2 small ones that are next to the stone building on the south side, and then the very large demo bed, and then a smaller one on the west side. So the dates that were approved are as follows. And these dates are provided that material is available. Potatoes will plant on the traditional planting date of March the 17th, 10 a.m. in the morning. Rain date of March the 20th at 1 p.m. And if you check in with the Facebook page, there will be information up there if there's a cancellation or, you know, for some reason or another, rain or weather or whatever, that information will be up there on the Facebook page. Cool season planting should be spinach, lettuce, radishes, cool season crops. April 21, 10 in the morning. A rain date of April the 23rd at 1 p.m. And the warm season planting, May the 12th at 10 a.m. with a rain date of May the 15th at 1 p.m. And Alan will have those up there on the Facebook page if they're not already up there.
Yeah, I just needed the time, so I'm ready to go put them up now. So thank
Okay.
you.
What was the warm season, the first planting date? Didn't write quite fast enough.
Warm
Which-
season planting date. First one's
Yep.
May the 12th, right?
Right, at 10 a.m. And that's provided that Jerry and I can run up to K-State and pick up the tomato plants and peppers and things that they will have ready for us. We'll go ahead and plan on that. Monica, I believe, tilled the garden, both 2 demo beds last week. So
And I
we'll
straightened up the shed,
what's that?
and I straightened up the shed, and
Oh,
Melina
you did?
noticed, and Melina noticed that
Greatly
the
appreciated.
strawberries are coming back. Yeah, I mean, I
Fabulous.
didn't do a lot of organizing or anything. I just basically cleaned up, created paths. So
That-
kind of straightened
that's
up a
good.
little.
That's good. And we appreciate that.
Oh, sure. My pleasure.
Anybody want me to
Paul was
repeat those
hurting later
dates?
that day. I'll just say that. But so we have to say a special thank you to him.
To who?
My husband, he was on
Oh,
the
yes.
tractor and it was rough because that dirt was hard. So he was
I'm sure.
struggling. By the end of the day, he was like, man, everything hurts. But he's
Yeah.
all good now. So
Good. All right. Once again, those planning dates will be up on the Facebook page, which is Augusta KS Community Garden. All right. Moving on. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our horticulture agent, Cal Edwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to talk about, but I'm here.
Do you have anything to share with this group?
Not anything right now. The master gardeners meet next week, so we can get the schedule signed up for maintenance and things. I haven't heard anything on the tomatoes and peppers, so I made a note to double check on those and make sure that they have us down. I know I got the request in before the due date, but that's kind of all I have for right now.
I know Jerry and I gave you a 10-cent tour of the garden last fall. Do you have any comments about the direction we're taking, or any guidance you wish to give to any of us?
You know, I was really impressed when I came and toured the garden with you guys last fall. The facilities and the way you have it set up are really top notch. You know, I think maybe with a little more advertising, we could hopefully get some more people in the garden. And that's something that I can look at and help you with. So, but I think you guys have a really good direction. I did read through your agreement, and I thought it looked great. I didn't see any recommendations or anything that I might recommend changing. So I think you guys are on a great track. Just had a rough start, and COVID and all that didn't help matters at all. So, but I'm looking forward to helping with you. And if I can't get my garden in El Dorado, then I probably will be trying to rent or adopt a couple beds down with you guys so I can grow my seeds that I started without having a place to know where I'm going with them. So they need a home to be adopted too.
Okay. Anything else you want to throw out there?
Not that I can think of right now. So
Okay. You want to say anything to Bryce about the middle school program?
he emailed me and we've exchanged a couple emails. So I know that's something that's on the agenda for next week. Once he kind of has an idea of what he wants, but I'm looking forward to helping with it, and I know we'll have some master gardeners that are willing to help as well.
Does anyone have any questions for our horticulture agent? Raise your hand in the chat room. Any comments? Okay. Seeing nothing, we'll move on to the master gardener maintenance schedule. And just a little history on that. Last year, we had fair participation as far as master gardeners and community volunteers working at the garden. It was sporadic. The only sign up that we were able to produce was a Facebook page where we asked people to sign up for a week or 2 weeks. They didn't have to be consecutive weeks, but a week now, maybe a week later. And basically, Jerry and I had to fill in for the rest of it. But we're hoping, like Callis said, to get more volunteers, more community involvement. I believe Callis is going to have a registration sheet at the Master Gardener meeting next week, and she will be encouraging everybody to sign up. Do you think we should go ahead and put our Facebook sign up page up there as well and let people sign up via Facebook?
It might be a good idea to do one at first, because if we have a sign up sheet at the Master Gardener group and say Lucy signs up for the week of June 3rd, but we put the Facebook sign up at the same time and someone else signs up for the week of June 3rd, we'll have 2 people on a week and we might have 2 or 3 weeks that don't have anybody. So
that's what happens. You're right.
But
okay, so we'll wait to get the schedule from you, and then we'll put up a Facebook schedule. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and what I could do is there's a program called, I think it's Sign Up Genius, where I can put it all online, and then we can share that. I can put what I have from the sign up next week, and then we can share it online, so it automatically marks people off as weeks get filled, that it shows how that works. Shows that those are filled. But yeah, I will. What week do you want us to start with the Master Gardeners helping?
We generally start sometime around mid-April and go through Labor Day. And of course, the weather has a lot to do with that. But that's just a general historical outline of what we've done. Not much watering to do after Labor Day unless we have some major fall crops. And even then, you know, depending on the weather, probably won't need a lot of watering
Okay.
or harvesting.
I will get that filled out, and then
As
the
far
ones.
as far as the maintenance schedule, you know, it entails watering and harvesting and general care of the garden. Just there's always something to do up there, but we don't want people to be burned out on it. So they've generally checked with me to see what needs to be done. But, you know, for right now, I think watering and harvesting is the main thing. And when the harvesting is done, of course, we have to weigh the harvest and report. Usually we report it to Alan so he can put it in the spreadsheet and then make the delivery. So that's the major thing as far as maintenance is watering, weeding, and harvesting.
And I can work on making it up as well. So
I think it's important to get the master gardeners figured out before we do anything else with that, so we don't double dip or screw it up. So
well,
We're
and if
gonna
yeah,
we're gonna leave that arm twisting up to Calla. The final thing that we have is I want to announce that the next Augusta Community Garden Board meeting will be Wednesday, March the 16th at 6 p.m. It'll be announced on Zoom, but as the weather gets better, the consensus has been we'd like to meet at the garden itself. Once again, the weather plays a major part in that. So watch the Facebook page to see where we're meeting. And also, Calla mentioned Master Gardener meeting, which will be 1 week from tonight. And it will be at the extension building. At what time is it, Calla? 6 p.m.
yep, 6 p.m. We'll have something to eat. So
That concludes the agenda, unless someone has some further comments from the chat room or questions for any of the board members or our extension agent. Okay. So that concludes the meeting, and I thank you all for attending. Unless someone has further questions or comments, thank you, Calla. Thank you, Alan. And thanks to everybody that attended. Yes.
Thank you.